In today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2015 movie Knight of Cups. Let's get into Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups was a movie I was actually really looking forward to watching. Just seeing clips on TikTok all the time, seeing clips on Instagram all the time. It seemed like this sort of movie that could even inspire you to get out there and go meet a woman and be, I don't know, like it was a very hard, it's a very hard movie to explain the, like, I don't want to say aura, but I'm going to say aura of it coming into it, where I really wanted to check it out. I see clips of Christian Bale and Natalie Portman running around, and it's like when you lose the your dream girl. So I thought this was going to be a really interesting movie. For me, this movie was fucking horrible. Um, I don't know. I just felt like the premise was there where this could have been a really solid movie where Christian Bale goes from girl to girl and like you see why this one didn't work out and why this one worked out. And I'm not against a nice romantic movie, You may look at me and say, "What are you doing watching a romantic drama?" I really like some of the movies that I've seen that are involving with romance. Like, I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, that's a movie that sticks out to me. Still thinking about that, watching that like a year later after watching that. This, however, was just an abomination. There was no redeeming aspects to this movie, or there were small redeeming aspects to this movie. But this just didn't make sense to me. And, maybe people will come in here and say, you're missing the big point. And some people think Magnolia is one of the best movies of all time when fucking frogs fly out of the sky. So I'm sure there's people who love this movie. But this was an abominable disappointment to me. Like, I don't, it was bad. I wanted it to be good. I really wanted this movie to be good and to be like, I love this movie. But it was really just like, what was happening? It was very odd, and it was very like maybe that's the point of it that I just didn't like the vibe of it. But it was like we're going from person to person, and we're barely speaking. You don't know why he's with this one girl, and then why he's not with this other girl. And there's too many girls. There's like 8 girls. It's hard to keep track of who's who. You really only know the characters of Kate Blanchett and Natalie Portman, but you don't know their names, you don't know anything about them. You just know like maybe a couple of dates that Christian Bale's character went on with them. And this movie's organized in these different chapters where in this chapter something happens, in this chapter something happens. But there's no lessons learned. There's no like I don't know. It was a very weirdly structured movie and I didn't like it. Like I just didn't like how this movie ended up playing out where I thought it could be cool, like, oh, he meets Natalie Portman and like it doesn't work out and then he goes with another girl and like there's like 3 to 4 women that you kind of experience you spend like even 30 minutes. We got an hour and 58 minutes here. Let's spend 30 minutes with each girl and then we go from them like why it didn't work with this one and then he finally finds the one or he just maybe doesn't even find the one. There could have been interesting things going on with these women, but it just nothing happens. Like there's nothing that even fucking happens. It's so weird to follow. It doesn't make sense, and I don't know. There were some cool visuals which I liked, and there is kind of like a vibe going on with Christian Bale's character that I do like. Like I like the party scene of him just like being there and like sort of out of it, and like the camera's a little bit weird. Like I like some of the cinematography of it. I liked the visuals, but in terms of plot and making you feel something after it. Like those are the two of the main things I take away from movies. Like, was this something I wanted to follow at all? You could have turned this movie off and still had the same takeaways you did never even watching this movie, in my opinion. It was just, I don't know. And I hate to crap all over this movie because I really had high hopes. This was on the top of my watch list for a while. I wanted to check this out and see what happened, but this ended up being a dramatic failure. So that's a little bit harsh, but for High Fofer, but still, you'll see my score. This was not something that I would recommend to many people out there, and I think no matter what, I've realized that don't ever worry about your opinion because people out there will love a movie for different reasons, and this one I'll just say is not up my alley. So if you align with certain views that I have on other movies, then don't check this one out. I can't give this one a recommendation, but it was it's fun to talk about because there's a lot to get into with sort of the content that happens throughout this movie. But let's get it going. So, as always, we like to start with the beginning of the movie. So, he is growing up, sort of a weird introduction, and this should have been a warning sign right away, but it wasn't. And I said he goes to a Diddy party with his dad, and his dad and the brother, bro. What is happening with these crash outs? I know his other brother had passed away, which R.I.P. and we take that very seriously, but the dad and the brother are like shitheads. Like there's what is going like it's just what is happening in this movie. He talks to his dad with these weird visuals of a woman happening, and at this point I was still ready to give this movie a chance, but I thought that was kind of a weird introduction to it. And the big question is, where did he go wrong? I wish I could fucking tell you where he went wrong, to be honest, because it's really hard to follow. So we go into different chapters. I wrote some of them down, some of them I didn't write down. The moon. So we start with the moon, and it's our first woman we meet. In my opinion, she was a little bit crazy and not super attractive to me. Not sure to other people, but this was kind of a weird arc where he gets into like the tarot cards, and the tarot cards are supposed to be a big part of this movie. There's like these symbolisms that happen in the movie that maybe just go right over my head that I miss. Like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be sitting down and watching this movie in Magnolia with a critical film lens and I'm missing a bunch of stuff. But the tarot cards play a big factor moving forward where they just show up on screen. There's a fucking helicopter that goes over his head every 10 minutes. That's got to mean something. This woman was just fine, and it was once that ended, I kind of got the hint that maybe this movie isn't going to be what I expected it to be. But she kind of introduced him to the tarot cards, and I'm not sure how that one even ended or why he ended up dipping off of the girl in the part that was called the moon. Don't worry, we got much more chapters to go. The Hanged Man, his brother. His brother is fucking annoying, and his dad is a wackadoo. The dad is, I just imagine him when I think of the dad just pacing around with like an angry face, and the brother is just annoying. I don't know, like, I'm still, Christian Bale's character is probably still my favorite character, obviously, because we spent the whole fucking movie with him, but these two just seem like nuisances, and I don't know if his brother committed suicide, hence the name The Hanged Man. We're just spending time with Christian Bale while these people just talk to him, and like there's no takeaways, there's no like what's happening. I don't know. I missed the premise of this. I'm not even saying there. Maybe there just wasn't a fucking premise, which I don't. I need direction. I'm a sheep. Okay, I need a fucking direction to go in. And yeah, his brother is just annoying. I went over that already. And then I noticed into Act, I don't want to say it's not Act 3, but like the third chapter, Christian Bale's character never fucking talks. He doesn't talk in this movie. It's crazy. Well, you don't need dialogue because silent movies and stuff like that, but for something like this, it was like you just have very little idea what's going on, where he's going from scene to scene, from different setting to different setting. The characters aren't consistent, so the one character we do have that is consistent doesn't talk. So we don't know how he's feeling. It's like these thoughts in his head, but they're kind of these like throwaway thoughts. Sometimes they'll be very deep, and sometimes they're just like he says two words. It's like we don't know how he's really thinking about things, and like where does this overall story lead up into? We'll get into that because I don't know, but that's the Hanged Man, and he never fucking talks. So the Hermit, not really sure what was going on in this chapter as well, but he's at a party, and I have respect for these two dudes just playing Wii at this bougie ass party. So it's like another one of those Diddy parties, white parties, Michael Rubin parties. Not I'm not implicating Michael Rubin. I'm saying that the type of vibe, where these famous people all show up and you don't really know what happens. They're drinking and on substances or whatever. My favorite gif from this movie is him at this party, kind of just like sauntering around. Anyways, nothing happens in The Hermit. Judgment. We're going with an older woman, and these she's got patients in the hospital. This woman seemed like the best woman so far. I think she's only the second or third woman that we get to, but she's maybe married, which is a problem that he seems to run into often. And I called this. Now, I have lot of LeBron moments on the cast, and maybe I'll be proven right when I do a live reaction one day. If I ever am, I don't know with copyright stuff if you're ever even allowed to stream you watching a movie, but I said this woman might be the one, and I don't know who fucking Kate Blanchett is, so I didn't clock that she was the second star of this movie and that it was going to be whatever. But I was like, this one might be the one that got away, and I guess you could say that for like anyone. But the girl from the moon, like, come on, that wasn't gonna work. The actress chick that comes later, you know, it's not gonna work. I called that this would be the one that would go through. So at least we were 1 for 1 on that. Judgment, I think, is an important chapter in this movie because he's gonna end up getting with her at the end. Some scenes I did note were shot really well. It is an interesting perspective where you have different. I do like kind of. I think it would be a really better movie if he actually just talked to people and like had conversations where we're not spending 2 seconds here, then 2 seconds there, then 2 seconds here, then 2 seconds there. Where if we actually stood with him and you kicked out some of these other chicks, like even the Moon Girl, even if we're like she's interested in tarot cards and they're like they just can't be together because he's not weird enough or something. You know, it's like we needed some context. That, in my opinion, I did think some of the scenes were shot really well, and it is an interesting perspective on life. Like I think there is through the mess that this movie was, in my opinion, there is something you could have gathered to say this is an interesting perspective on life, and they could have done a lot better, in my opinion, to do that. There is certain things you can grab, very small things, but it's like there was something here. There was the bare bones. There was the skeleton of a good movie here. It just failed in all executions of it. Anyways, move ahead to the tower. So he's this, in my opinion, is the most attractive woman yet. She's on the phone naked outside, which I thought very odd in Los Angeles. And yeah, this woman is a model as well, which he does pretty well for himself in this movie, especially moving. I know I kind of shit on the Moon Girl, but moving past the Moon Girl, he does a decent job for himself in this movie again with these different chicks. And the tower, I don't really know what happens with that one because there's no context, there's no ending, there's no beginning, there's no anything. It's just on to the next one. And once again, the helicopter flies over. So let me know down below if I missed something on the helicopter. Actually, I'm probably gonna look that up after this and see what happened. But I don't know. I couldn't think of a maybe it's just to signify it's time to move on to the next stage of your life. And as we do, he gets very very casually robbed at home, where it's a very chill, hand everything over. Here you go. Have a good one. Like just something happens to you in LA, I guess. Keep it moving because now we're at a strip club. And I have to say, I did like the strip club girl as well. Like, I think if you put in the girl from Judgment, the strip club girl, and Natalie Portman, and like one of the other girls, like either the girl who talked naked on the phone, even the Moon Girl, even the actress chick that I didn't even talk about at all. Put in one of those three, and then you have Judgment, the stripper girl, Natalie Portman's character, and one of those three, you have four women to go from here to here to here, where it's like maybe he gets with the Judgment Girl and go, let me write this movie because or Terrence Malick should have consulted me, and then I would say, man, you're doing this wrong. You've got the good skeleton here of a movie where there's compelling characters in Kate Blanchett and Natalie Portman and the stripper girl. Let's just keep in one more to start us off. Maybe like we keep in the Moon Girl or the girl like. I think you kind of get the similar vibe of the girl from the tower who's on the phone. She's attractive. She's talking naked. She's younger than him. Like that could be the stripper girl's arc, where the stripper girl, in my opinion, her arc was like being this young sort of influx of young life into his life. So she seemed fun to me, and probably would be my second best girl so far. Anyways, I thought that was a good arc, but of course, we move on fast because we can't stay within one place and learn anything about any of these characters. So that's over. And really, the holding out point for me was waiting to see when Natalie Portman would show up due to my seeing those clips online. And finally, we got her. And, maybe I overhyped these scenes of Natalie Portman and Christian Bale, but this is my favorite part of the movie. Just, you know, it's Natalie Portman, and what can you say, man? What can you say, Natalie Portman? But it was super exciting to see Natalie Portman. We learned a little bit about her character. She was married beforehand. She has a baby, but I think she has a miscarriage, and she's got him sucking her toes. So I thought that was going to be the end game. But no, it's not. We get to freedom. or he finally decides that I'm going to go back with the Judgment Woman and get married and live a life of happiness because that's what I deserve. Which, yeah, you do deserve happiness, dude. It's just like we don't know why you deserve anything because we don't know anything about you or your love interests. So she seems like a fine match where I don't really know why they separated. So them getting back together is perfectly fine, or getting married. And there were probably a little bit of subtle clips throughout the movie of like, this is gonna happen later on where they talk about being married. Like maybe it was just them being married. But this movie was so fucking confusing, lost a lot of points in a lot of areas. Disappointing. The skeleton was there for me of this to be a good film. It just was not a good watch, and I can't give this anything higher than a 3.5 for Night of Cops. Sorry, it's just I have to review honestly. I can't have any bias in my heart. I can't go off clips. Overall, as a piece of work, this was not something I'm looking forward to watching ever again. And you know, what gets it from being in the basement dweller of a 0.5 to a 3.5? I think the premise of it is super interesting, where at least this is a cool idea. And there were scenes that stood out, like the Portman scenes, the cinematography I thought was cool, and you know, this sort of idea, like at least they give the woman enough of a personality for it to be somewhat interesting. Of the stripper girl is like this young energy, the moon girl has tarot cards, and I don't know, but it all kind of just clumps together at the end of it, and you don't really gain anything from this, even though it's like this life journey. And I didn't like the brother scenes or the dad scenes, so this is a 3.5. It wasn't good for me, and I'm sorry to the people who, if you love this movie, I just can't give this anything higher than a 3.5. So where does this movie compare to the other movies reviewed so far on the Dubcast? This is the 92nd movie we reviewed so far, and it's the worst movie we reviewed so far. So I can't even put this over Joker 2, which was the previous lowest. Lowest movie to date, number 92, Night of Cups, unfortunately was a big miss for me. Comparing this to some other Christian Bale movies, obviously it's going to be the lowest. He was in 3:10 to Yuma, which I gave a 7.9, Hostiles, which I gave a 7.4. Now this becomes the lowest of those three. And for Natalie Portman, this is a very disappointing Natalie Portman performance considering her first two movies that I've reviewed. Black Swan, I gave that an 8.5, and Brothers, I gave that an 8.4. So this becomes the lowest Natalie Portman movie, unfortunately. So that's what I got on Night of Cups. Kill me in the comments if you want, but I'm not going to pretend like this movie was a good time. It wasn't for me. So that's where I'll leave on Night of Cups. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What am I missing? Or did I clock it right in the head? Let me know down below. Besides that, coming up on the Dubcast, we got more movie reviews. Always stay tuned. We'll have movie reviews always, and TV stuff is on the social media channels, and you can stay locked in on YouTube for some more sports content and some sit down other channels happening. But we're touch and go here, Survivor 50 is coming up, so we'll cover that. We'll do a not live, I can't promise that, but we'll cover each episode of Survivor 50, and then we'll do some other fun stuff here and there. It's whatever I feel like. So if you like listening to my voice, like the direction we're headed, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, dislike if you want to. If you think Night of Cops is great, you're an idiot. Dislike this video. Any interaction is positive interaction. So appreciate you staying through the whole review. I'll leave you out with that, and as always, be easy, y'all.